We are in Catania, and we wanted to show you with our friend the beautiful place, the most beautiful place of Catania, with this virtual tour. Please enjoy.
So, nice to meet you, even if we are so far away. I'm Angela and Ferreira, and I represent a local group of guides and the association, the Regional Association of Local Guides. I'm very happy to have the opportunity to present my city, Catania. We are in the city center, just in front of the elephant, the fountain with the elephant, which is probably the most famous piece here in Catania. It's also the symbol of Catania. We can see it not only in this statue, which is in lava stone. It's one piece, a monolith, and it belongs to the Roman age, so it's about 2,000 years old. We can see the same elephant represented on the facade of the town hall. If we have a look to the town hall, we can see on the top of the balconies the elephant and the A, which is the name Agatha, our saint patron. So as you can see, we are in the real town center. Catania was founded about 2,800 years ago by the Greeks, and the first name was Catane, Kata Etna, under Etna, on the slopes of Mount Etna. This is the origin, probably the origin of the names. And you know that we are on volcanic soil. We are touching Etna, actually. Etna is not only the big mount we can see in our landscape, but all this area has a volcanic origin. And in the town we can see lava everywhere, in the statue of the elephant, in the soil, and of course in the houses and palaces. In the city center we have mostly Baroque houses, churches, palaces, because the town was rebuilt after a terrible earthquake that took place in 1693. It was at the end of the 17th century, and a few years later people started to rebuild the town with the help of local architects. There was no money to pay for big names, for famous architects, so local people worked hardly for the reconstruction of the town. One of the most important arrived later, at the beginning of the 18th century. His name was Vaccarini, Giovan Battista Vaccarini. Thanks to Vaccarini, we have today the symbol of the town, which is the elephant. He probably had the idea, looking at the elephant statue with obelisk in Rome, in Piazza Minerva, made by Bernini. But our elephant is much older, because it's a Roman statue. Vaccarini found the column. The column comes from Egypt, and put it on the back of the elephant. The low part is a fountain, and in the fountain we can see two important symbols, two men representing two rivers. One river is underground, the town, and it's the so-called Amenano River, and is one of the reasons because Catania was founded here. Thanks to the river, we have water, we have drinkable waters, fresh water. That was Greek people were looking for before founding a new colony, a new town. And now, because of the many lava flows that reached the town in the past, the river is underground. We can recognize the river if we look at the back part of the square, the fountain. The water we can see, it's water from River Amenano. we can have a walk and look together at this very nice fountain, and also have a look at the river, which is underground. On the back of the fountain, there is the fish market, the so-called pescheria, one of the traditional markets in Catania. We have not only one, but at least two. This one where we can find any sort of fresh food, not only fish, but also meat, cheese, vegetables, fruit, and so on. It's like a supermarket in plein air. And another one along the main street, via Etnea, where we can find shoes, bags, dresses, everything for very low prices. Look at water. Water is life, and life comes from Etna. The fresh water comes from one of the rivers on the slopes of Mount Etna. Let's have a look at the fish market. Not far away there is the coast, the harbor. So the river goes on and ends in the harbor. So normally in the afternoon the market closes, so you can't see all the sellers, but just part of them. And if you look on the other side, there is a lavatory. I mean, a place where women used to wash their things, their clothes, when they had no electric lavatory at home. So till 70 years ago, more or less, it was still in use. Now it's closed, always using the same water, the water from River Amenano. This is our fish market. Each one knows, the real Catanese knows where he can buy the fresh fish. And we have a tunnel, which is an historical part of the town, because it's a part of the ancient city wall. The city wall was built in the 16th century by Charles V. Now it's part of the market. Of course, there is no reason to have a city wall in our historical era, but under the tunnel they sell frozen fish. On the square they sell fresh fish. There is a difference. Going around would be possible to see vegetables, fruit, and any other sort of food. The fish market is changing its aspect because a lot of shops became restaurants or street foods places. So if you come to Catania, please try our fresh fish in the local little trattorias and restaurants, even takeaway. Before having a look at the cathedral, I'd like to tell you something about the urbanistic shape of the town. From this square, from the cathedral square, start three main streets. The main street is called Via Etnea. Via Etnea, like Etna. It looks to the northern direction, looking at Etna Mount, at Etna volcano. So the direction of this street is from south to north. It's about 3 kilometers long, the main street. It's the shopping area, it's the place to sit in a bar and have a drink, and part of it is a pedestrian area. Then 2 more streets in the other direction, east-west direction, via Garibaldi. At the end of the street there is a gate dedicated to Garibaldi. And another one, via Vittorio Emanuele, the street is dedicated to the King of Italy, when Italy was unified. Well, it's important to understand when in 1693 the earthquake destroyed the town, Catania was a medieval town. So there were a lot of little streets, internal courtyards, no escape ways. People had no way to escape, to go away and to save themselves. The new town was built with a very regular urbanistic organization, with big squares like this one. We have many of them, which are places where you can go in case of a new earthquake, waiting for first help. And that was the idea at the beginning of the 17th, at the end of the 17th, beginning of the 18th century. And along Vietnea and also along the 2 main streets, Garibaldi and Vittorio Emanuele, there are a lot of noble palaces. Most of the reconstruction was due to the church. The different religious orders wanted to build their churches and monasteries, and of course to the big, rich, noble families, baron, dukes, princes, and so on, who spent their money to rebuild the town. One of these, for example, close to the fountain, that was one of the first. It should be restored, but if you have a look at the facade, you can appreciate the decoration in Baroque, but not too full, not so exaggerated like in other places, because as I told you, it was a late Baroque. They started to build at the beginning of the 18th century. In other cities like Rome, Palermo itself, Baroque houses and churches, monuments were built 70, 80 years before. So there is a difference in between the Baroque of East Sicily and the Baroque of other places in Europe. In 1693, not only Catania, but many other towns were destroyed by the earthquake. For example, Noto, Caltagirone, Modica, Ragusa, so the southeast corner of Sicily. All this area is now under the protection of UNESCO. In 2002, Catania, together with these other towns, was declared UNESCO site. And that means money, of course, for the restoration of the facades, but it also means to be more popular as a touristic destination. Now we can go to the cathedral, have a look inside. It's very interesting, not only because of the Baroque facade, where we can see the 2 big statues with Saint Peter and Saint Paul, but because of the ancient part of the cathedral, the apses. The apses are part of the first church, which was built at the end of the 11th century in the Norman age. The Normans conquered Sicily in the middle of the 11th century, they built churches and cathedrals everywhere in Sicily because they wanted to go back to Christian religion. Before the Norman domination, we had 200 years long the Arabian domination, so Islam was the religion for quite everybody. And the Normans wanted to have to start again with Christian. They promised the Pope to go back to the Christian religion. The church was built in order to be a church and fortress at the same time. It had a very big, very high bell tower, 90 meters. From the bell tower, it was possible to have a look at the harbor, so it was a strategic position. With the earthquake, the bell tower collapsed, destroying the church, but not the apsis. So if we have a look in front of us at the apsis, we can see they have a Gothic arch, whereas the central part of the church has round arches which were built in the 17th, 18th century, so after the earthquake. It's like a collage, two churches of two different periods, 11th century, 18th century. That was very modern, the idea was very modern. The architect Vaccarini, the same of the elephant, together with another one, Palazzotto, they decided to maintain the parts of the church which were not destroyed by the earthquake. Normally, in that period, they used to destroy everything to cancel any trace and to build again. But in this case, the idea was we don't want to forget the history of the town, and this is part of it. The church is dedicated to Mary, but actually for everybody in Catania it's Sant'Agata Cathedral, because for us Saint Agata is more important than Mary, than Jesus' mother. We have in this church a monument dedicated to Vincenzo Bellini. He's considered the golden son of the town. Born in 1801, he died very, very young. He was just 35 years old. He was a musician, composed operas like the Norma. Probably the Norma is the most famous. I Puritani, La Sonnambula, and many more. And when he died, he was famous all over Europe. So he died in Puteaux, near Parigi, and was buried there. Only 40 years later, in 1876, the town had his body back. So it was possible to organize a new funeral and to have the funeral monument for him here in the cathedral. An interesting part of the church are the pillars built in lava stone. The first church had no pillars but round columns, and we can see the rests of the columns of the Middle Ages. So the church was a little bit lower than the actual level and had round columns like all churches in the Middle Age. But when they rebuilt, they thought we need something very resistant, just in case we have a new earthquake. So they decided for pillars. In the same lines where there were the columns, they built these square pillars using lava stone. All the town was built using lava stone, basalt. It's very hard, very resistant, and it's low cost. Nowadays we use the word short distance, no? Chilometro zero. And that was the idea. They had quarries not far away from Catania or in the town itself, and they were able to have building material at a short distance, and they didn't need to import marble because marble is very expensive, and in Sicily we don't have marble. So they should import it from Africa or from Carrara. But the economical situation was not the best one. At the end of the right nave, we have a chapel closed for security. It's the chapel dedicated to Saint Agatha, where we see a lot of little lights. This is the, let's say, the most important place for local people. On one side, on the left side, there are the relics, the bones of the saint patron, and together with her, there are some sarcophags with princesses from Aragon. The Aragonian family, the first Spanish family who ruled in Sicily in the 14th and 15th century. They loved Catania and Saint Agatha and asked to be buried close to the saint patron. And here you can see the pointed arch, the Gothic arch of the apsis, going in front of the gate with the Saint Agatha Chapel. We reach the most ancient part of the church, so the medieval church. We can also have a look at the little windows. They are before us, and you can recognize the ancient part of the church. Whereas totally different is the Baroque decoration in the central nave with flowers. In Catania sometimes we say floral decoration, because instead of having masks or little children, something like that, the local architects had rather floral decorations. So, in the same square, we have the town hall. In these days, we can see on the facade of the town hall not only the flags, the Italian flag and the Catania's flag, which is red and blue, but also some pieces with A. In these days, we start with the feast dedicated to Saint Agatha. The day of the saint is the 5th of February, but normally the organization starts a couple of weeks before. This is the second year that we can't do the procession because of the epidemic. The last one was in February 2020, few weeks before the first lockdown, and now in 2021 and 22 is no more possible, of course, for the social security. So we can have a look at the town hall inside. When the town was rebuilt, the market was in the square. Later it was moved under on the other side, and in the last 15 years this square together with Via Etnea became a pedestrian area. Let's have a look if we are allowed. Normally we can go into the courtyard.
Se non ti fa dire l'ufficio.
Solo un'occhiata alle... Grazie. So, typical of many public buildings in Catania are the internal courtyards. Because of the influence of the Spanish architecture. When Catania was destroyed by the earthquake, Sicily was under the Spanish domination. Spanish kings didn't want to rebuild the town. They said it's not worthwhile. The town has been destroyed many times by earthquakes and lava flows. So they said we can reorganize the harbor because of the commerce and so, but not the entire town. But people didn't want to go away. So they had to decide for the reconstruction. And the influence of architecture comes, of course, from Spain. The internal courtyard gives the possibility for to have light, air, and to have a sort of security and privacy as well. This is the place where our major and his staff used to work. And here we can see the sign of UNESCO, where it's said that Catania is part of UNESCO sites, is under the protection of UNESCO. And here we also have two big carriages. They are always here inside. They are in use just once a year during the procession of Saint Agatha. On the 3rd of February, so 2 days before the real procession, they go around and with the Archbishop, the Major, and many other representatives. And it's a sort of pre-procession. They open the official feast of Saint Agatha. And that's why in the courtyard we have some posters reminding the feast and the procession. But we also have a very nice Sicilian carriage. Normally you see such pieces like souvenirs in miniature. This is an original one, hand-painted by a local artist, Salvatore Rizza from Floridia. Floridia is a town in between Catania and Syracuse, and it has the nice colors, so you can see red and yellow and so on, and represents some everyday life. It's like pictures of everyday life. If you visit Sicily, you can go away without a souvenir of a little carriage, il carretto siciliano. In the past, they were used just for special days, like a wedding, like a religious procession or something like that. Not every day to go to the market, of course.
Questa qua di meno male, infatti noi facciamo
And very close to Piazza Duomo we have the second important square, which is Piazza Università. We are very proud of our university because it was the first university founded in Sicily in 1434. So it's in some years we will have the 600th anniversary of the university. It was founded by the Aragonian family, the Aragonian kings. That was the period when Catania was capital, not Palermo, but Catania. It was a short period, but this family of kings, the Aragonians, they wanted to stay in Catania, so they had their residence here in Catania, and they opened it here, the first university. Now we have more than 25,000 students, and we have quite all faculties, of course. The first ones were theology and right, law, and law. So as you can see, we are very, very close. The two squares are very close each other. And we have the University Palace, where we can see the eagle symbol of the Aragonian family. The eagle with the low wings is the symbol of this Aragonian family. Under the eagle, you can see the symbol of Savoia family. It was put later when Sicily became a part of the Italian reign. On the facade, we can read Siculorum Gymnasium, the university for Sicilian people, because it was for a long time the only university in Sicily. At the end of the 16th century was opened the university in Messina, and only at the beginning of the 19th century the university in Palermo. We are, as I told you, we are very proud. Sometimes we say Palermo is the political capital, but Catania is the cultural capital. Don't tell it to our friends from Palermo. In front of the main palace there is another one where we can read Università degli Studi, but actually it was built to be the private property, the private residence of a prince family San Giuliano. In the last century they lost their properties, they had to sell. Part of it was sold to the Banco de Sicilia, and part of it was sold to the university. So there are some offices, some rooms, many rooms belonging to the university, and that was a good idea, no? Because if the university was not able to buy it, then it would be a private house now. And now we can move to Via dei Crociferi. This is probably the most famous street in Catania because of the main churches in a very little street. We have to walk in the little lecher streets so we can reach the heart of the Baroque city. In the evening, here is full of tables, restaurants, pizzerias, whatever. Sometimes it's impossible even to walk. By car, no way. Even to walk, sometimes you have some difficulties. There is a corner I want to show you. We are on the back of a church. You can see the apsis of the church Collegiata. On the back there is a shop in Liberty style. Can you see the difference in between the Baroque facades we have seen till now and the nice Liberty decoration, the floral style of modernism, which is like a corner, a hidden corner. Nobody knows how they were able to build on the back of a church, no? Touching the church, but we have it. Look at the steps. To reach Via Crociferi, we have to walk up. And that's also interesting. In Catania, we have a lot of streets that go up, or steps like this one, because we have many hills. In the town center and all around there are many hills. Actually, these hills are ancient craters. They were, once upon a time, in the prehistory, let's say about 300,000 years ago, active craters, so they are part of Etna. Going up, at the end, there is an oval square. It's Piazza Dante. In Piazza Dante should be the mouth of this crater, and this is just one of the many we have in the town. In these steps, in the evening, we can meet a lot of young people drinking beer and having enjoying the evening when there is nice weather. So we have some more steps, and then we are in Via dei Crociferi. Crociferi. Ask somebody here in Catania, they will tell you croci, cross, many churches. That's why the name of the street. But the real etymology is a little bit different. Crociferi is a religious order. It's a Franciscan order. And these monks decided to build their monastery and the San Camillo Church along this street. After this first example, after the Crociferi order, many other religious orders decided to build along the same little street their churches. Why? Just because there was not enough space, room, free place along the main street. Everybody wanted to build in the Etnea, but it was impossible So they had to look for another place, and so they decided for this little street because it's actually very, very close to the main street. Very significant is the arch that put in communication the two parts of the Benedictine monastery. This is the only one which is still active, with the closure nuns. They live inside, they are, I don't know, 12, 13, no, not so many. And we can see them all together just once a year. They come out on the 5th of February in the evening when the procession of Saint Agatha comes along the street. We can see them in the steps of their church, St. Benedict Church. They sing a song dedicated to Saint Agatha, and then they receive white flowers from the hands of the Archbishop, and then they disappear again. They are closure nuns, so they shouldn't have contact with the society, with other people. And in the past, when Catania was rebuilt, the Benedictine order was one of the biggest all over Europe, so they had a very, very big monastery on the two parts of the street. And the arch is the symbol of the Benedictine order, but also the symbol of our little cruciferi street. Okay. And in the same street, forse possiamo fare vedere di nuovo, in the same street we have many other churches. On the same side of Benedictine Church we have the San Francesco Borgia Church, and on the right side, just in front is the San Giuliano Church. It was the private church of the Prince family who had its residence in front of the university. They were so rich that they had their private church dedicated to Saint Julian because of their name, San Giuliano as a surname, but Saint Julian as protector of the family. Possiamo girare a destra, faccio vedere quel poco che c'è di resti romani, così tagliamo un po' dal barocco. One of the characteristics of our town is that Catania has been destroyed many times during its history, but it has always been rebuilt in the same place, like a phoenix, the mythological bird that dies and then comes again from its ashes. The same happened with Catania. Historians count with 9 destructions due to nature, so earthquakes and lava flows. But the city center is always in the same place. And that's why we can find some Roman ruins not far away from the cathedral. In the Roman age, Catania should be a very important and rich town. Thanks to the fertility of the soil, thanks to the water that comes from Etna, Catania was able to develop itself from the Greek age and going on to the Roman period. In the Roman period, Catania had a theater, an Odeon, an amphitheater in the imperial age, 3 or 4 thermal baths, and many rich houses with mosaics and any other thing. But the lava flows and the earthquakes had destroyed much part of these important ruins. But here we can appreciate the back part of the Roman theater. Under the Roman one, there is the Greek one. We know that a first little theater was built in the same position, facing the coast, the sea, in the same place here, probably in the 4th, 3rd century BC by the Greeks. Later the Romans built on the shape of the ancient Greek theater the Roman one. It's bigger than the theater in Taormina. The one in Taormina is much more famous because of the wonderful view you can have from there. Here we are in the middle of the town. It has been very difficult for our archaeologists to obtain the recognition as archaeological park because we are inside the town. Although we have a theater with more than 8,000 seats and with all the parts that you can recognize. So the Roman arch, the bricks, built in lava stone. Even in the past they used the local stone. And close to it there is another one. It's an Odeon, a little one, with no more than 300 seats, where they used to meet for political meetings, so the Senatus, and probably also for events, not big events, but music or something like that. The Roman theater was built in the 2nd century BC and then restored in the 2nd AD when Emperor Adrian came to Catania for a visit, and people wanted to show that Catania was rich enough for an important theater. So here we are in a big square. This is no more pedestrian area, that's why you can see a lot of cars parked everywhere, but it's an historical place because on this hill was founded the first Catania, the first Greek colony, in 729-727 BC. And here we have literature, languages, history, philosophy, so humanistic university, faculties, and the monastery is one of the biggest all over Europe. It's as big as the San Geronimo monastery in Portugal. Sometimes they measure both monasteries and they say this one is 10 meters, 10 square meters bigger, or that one. It's quite impossible to know exactly. And it was built on the ruins of another one, another Benedictine monastery, which was destroyed by lava flow. The lava flow in 1669, that means 24 years before the earthquake, touched this monastery and then went down, reaching the harbor, the coast, and then the earthquake. So two disasters, two tragedies, the lava and the earthquake, but the Benedictines were rich enough to build one of the nicest and most elegant private residences of the period. Close to the monastery there is the church dedicated to Saint Nicola. Let's have a look inside, and then I'd like to show you the facade of Saint Nicola Church. Inside there is an ancient Roman street, so we can have an idea of the ancient town. But what people really love in the summer is the shade, the fresh air you can have under these big trees, Ficus benjamins. So here we are in front of the Benedictine monastery, now seat of the university, and we can appreciate the nice Baroque facade. You can see the two colors, black and white, which are the same colors in all houses, buildings, churches in the town center. Black and white. Black is the color of lava, white is limestone, it's not marble. There was no money to buy marble in that period, so they used the limestone from Syracuse. And the two colors have a symbolic meaning. The architects said that if black is the color of tragedy because of the earthquake, the white color represents the new life, so the reconstruction of the town. As I told you, this was the place for the first town, Catania, the Greek town. Here there was the Acropolis with the first sacral areas, with the first temples, with the Agora probably. And here we can see a Roman street, one of the Roman streets. It's parallel to our Via Etnea, so we can see that the ancient urbanistic shape of the town was the same. It was opened, the excavation, about 25 years ago. And if we go inside the monastery, we can see one of the internal courtyards. We have on one side, on the right side, the Saint Benedict, the founder of the order. On the other side, Saint Nicola, protector of the religious order of the Benedictines. Here we have a model of the entire monastery with the church in the front and the square shape and the two courtyards. In these courtyards, the monks used to sit in the afternoon when it was very hot, and they had some fresh moments drinking a granita or an orange juice. They had their personal habitat, let's say. In the middle is sort of a kiosk decorated with ceramic pottery from Caltagirone. It's not easy, but it's possible to see the green and yellow color, which is typical of Caltagirone decoration. Okay. Thanks to UNESCO, they were able to finish the restoration of this big monastery. And what we really think is, what is really nice is that young people, the students, can live inside, can appreciate this place. So it's not only a monument, but a place where people study, live, meet, so everyday life. Here we are in the middle of the square, Piazza Dante, but on the square we see a church which is not totally complete. The facade was not finished. Probably they had no more money to finish it. The Benedictines spent so much money to build the big monastery, and then they had no money enough for the church. Have a look. What is interesting is the high part where you see the black facade. This is the internal part of the church. So you can imagine how all houses were built using lava stone inside because it's more resistant, this basalt, and then covered with white stone, the limestone from Syracuse. The church is part of the monastery and is one of the biggest for the surface, one of the biggest all over Italy. If we have a look inside, we can see it. The church is exactly on the mouth of the ancient crater. So here we are really touching Etna. In the church we can find the carriages dedicated to some votive carriages dedicated to Saint Agatha. They are little carriages, if we can call or define them little. They follow the main carriage, and they are votive pieces offered by the population to the saint. They are called the candelore. In Italian language, candela is candle. The shape is like a candle. And in the past, there was not electric light, but real candles. And you can see we have many of them. They are 8. Each one is a votive piece given to Saint Agatha by a group of workers. For example, a group of people who sell meat, or fishers, or people who sell flowers or wine. So they are divided in groups. They are in wood, the nice carriages, and the golden part, it's real gold. It's a very fine codi, yes, in gold. In the little windows, ecco, you see here, negozianti e spacciatori di vino, people who sell wine. In the little windows, you can see moments of Saint Agatha's life. And the flags are the private flags of people who offered the carriage. On the 3rd of February, so 2 days before the official procession, together with the 2 carriages of the town hall, they go around the town. So they prepare the official procession. During this procession, they put fresh flowers. At the moment, they are not fresh, but synthetic flowers. But in the days dedicated to Saint Agatha, everything must be perfect. The church is also the pantheon dedicated to soldiers who died during the First World War. That's why we can see tables with the names of the young soldiers died during the war. And there is another thing to discover together, which is the meridian, the sun clock. on the pavement, on the soil. It works every day at noon. There is a little hole on the top of the ceiling, and at noon we know that it's 12 o'clock. In the summer we have to wait till 1 o'clock because of the difference of the time. On the meridian, built in the middle of the 19th century, we can recognize the horoscope, then the level of the town, the seasons and everything. That was the period when all over Europe study about astronomy was improving, and even Catania wanted to have its own meridian sun clock. In many towns the meridian is in the cathedral, but in this case, you know, the cathedral is in the low part of the town. Here on the hill, of course, the position is the best one for the meridian. A fantastic piece is the orgel. Even Vincenzo Bellini played this orgel. Sono bellissime, no? Look at the name, La Candelora dei Giardinieri, so the candle offered by gardeners. And one of the statues represents Saint Euplio. Saint Euplio was the first patron of Catania. Later, Saint Agatha became more famous, and now she is the first patron. Here we have fruit and lemons, cherries and so on, because it's the candelora offered by a group of people who work in agriculture. Okay. Our last visit will touch the castle, Castello Ursino. It's the only element that survived to the earthquake in 1693. Let's have a look at our street food, the street food, the Sicilian street food, the arancino. In Palermo they say arancina, it's female, but in Catania it's male. And the traditional one with the ragu sauce and the mozzarella cheese and meat, of course. The other one, the round, has some spinach, so it's a vegetable one. And then we have many sorts of pizzas. This one, for example, is fried, and it's made with pecorino. This is a sheep cheese, and anchovies. This is the typical pizza in Catania, a sort of calzone, but fried, not put in oven, not baked, but fried. And then pizza, closed pizza, little pizzas, and the cipollina. Cipollina is made with a lot of onion inside, and then cheese and ham as
Onion
well.
or onion sauce?
Onion. Pre-cooked onion and then put inside. That's why it's called a cipollina, because of onion. And this is the baked arancino. You see the rice inside. So the traditional arancino is fried. The baked one is without oil. So now we are in a very ancient historical square here in Catania. It's Piazza Federico di Svevia. The square is dedicated to the German Emperor Friedrich II, and in the middle of the square there is a castle which was built by Friedrich II in the middle of the 13th century. He came to Catania just once, and he wanted to destroy the town because local people had organized a rebellion against the dominion of the emperor, and he wanted to make a big action against the town. But apparently it was a miracle made by Saint Agatha, who stopped the cruel action of the emperor, and the emperor decided to build the castle. In the castle were the soldiers, and they had to control the town. On the facade we can see the eagle of Friedrich II in the little window just in the middle. The eagle has in its hands a little animal, probably a little ship. And the ship is the symbol of Catania, and the eagle is the symbol of the emperor dominating the city. It's used inside the castle. We have the civic museum, but it's also used by the town hall for weddings. That's why we can see elegant people around, even with flowers. So probably the mayor is inside and has celebrated the last wedding in the last year, in the last minutes, in the last hours. Look at the castle. It's square. It's 62 meters each side. It's built in lava stone, of course, the local material, and the original position was on a little island in the middle of sea water. Now we are in the middle of a square. In 1669, a big lava flow reached Catania and surrounded the castle. We can see the lava rocks of that age. You can see these black stones. This is the lava rock that came down as a flowing material from Etna and surrounded the castle. Thanks to water, thanks to the distance from Etna, the lava, when it arrived, was not so hot as it is normally close to the crater. And thanks to the lava in which is made the castle, the eruption was not able to destroy the castle. And this is the only monument that survived to earthquake that took place later. So we had lava flow in 1669 and earthquake 1693. The lava probably sustained, no? Was a sort of maintaining for the castle. And it's in 3 levels. So we have in the low part underground, there was the jail. In the street level, there is the archaeological collection, and in the second floor, there is the Pinacothèque, so the local Pinacothèque. What is also interesting, on the back of the castle, we have the new part of the city. Catania ended here. Here was sea water, so this was part of the harbor actually, and then the lava went on covering part of the harbor, so the town became bigger, about 1 kilometer more. On the back of the castle, you see houses built on the new soil, the soil made by the eruption. And if we have a look in between the houses, where you see the clouds, you can recognize Mount Etna. From there, the lava reached the town, not from the top, but middle way. 2 mouths, 2 new craters were opened by an explosion, and the lava was able to reach the town. Nobody died because of the eruption. Many people died later because of the earthquake, but not the lava flow. Etna is a good volcano, we say. Good because we have time to evacuate. The lava comes very slowly down, and people have time to organize the evacuation. That's what happened in 1669. But they had no time with the earthquake, when thousands and thousands of people, not only in Catania but all around the east coast of Sicily, died in a few seconds because of the earthquake. Verdi e 3 rossi.
Voi l'avete assaggiato mai?
Sì.
Lo devono riassaggiare, non si scappa. Ti possiamo fare una ripresa?
Tanto ho già iniziato.
I really like the typical Sicilian drink or Catanese drink. You can find it only in Catania. Don't ask for mandarino al limone in Palermo, they're not able to do it. It's a typical Catanese drink. Much better than any other soft drink you can find in cans or anything else. It's made with the mandarin syrup. The green one is made with a green mandarin, so not mature. And then with some fresh lemon juice. And soda water, so sparkling water. We also have the red one, which is made with mature mandarin, so the orange mandarin, and lemon juice as well. It's fantastic in the summer when it's hot against thirsty. And it also gives you some energy. No? The lemon juice is always good, and the syrup is homemade. We have such kiosks all around Catania, in our squares, and we can find a refreshing drink at any time. And here close to the castle, to Ursino Castle, we have one of the traditional kiosks. As you can see, it's really sparkling water, not from the bottle, but direct with gas. Poi quando mi girano il video te lo giro, eh? C'è una cosa di 1 ora che ti dovevi, e poi alla fine ci sarai anche tu, però. Dai,
Grazie
uno
mille.
ciascuno. I like the green one.
Vai Francesco.
So,
Io vado arancione.
Vai Vittorio.
come ti chiami? Così.
Gianluigi.
Gianluigi. So thank you to Gianluigi for the
Thank you.
nice
Cheers.
mandarino al limone. If you want to order something like this in Catania, you ask for mandarino al limone verde or mandarino al limone traditional.
Hello, I think that it was a beautiful
Thank you.
tour, and I want to thank you for your time
Thank
and
you.
to share your time with us. And please, if you want to arrive to go to Catania, we are very, very, very happy to have you with us.
So thank you very much for this opportunity. It has been a pleasure for me to have this tour, this virtual tour together with you. I hope to meet you in presence in the next months or years. Bye bye from Catania.
Bye.